What's up, guys? This is Nico from Limitless, and we're finally back with another set review. Of course, we're taking a look at Sun and Moon Team Up, the newest set and the first set to introduce Tag Team GX. Of course, we already have the Magikarp Wailord GX because it was a promo card, but that's the first set where they will be officially part of it. And yes, we can see right here, it's going to be in stores on February 1st, which means pre-releases at the point of this video have already started. So we 100% have the guaranteed set list, so there will be no assumptions in this list, no cards that will not end up in the set eventually. And yeah, also first tournament, of course, where it's going to be legal is the International Championship in Melbourne. So yeah, quite an important tournament, and let's get into the set right away. Of course, talking about Tag Team GX, we start off the set right away with a tag team, which is Celebi and Venusaur. First attack for 1 Grass to Colorless, 50, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned, burned, and confused. Definitely has potential to be a strong attack, especially because there will be cards that deal more damage based on how many special conditions your opponent's card has. But as we will get into some cards later, it's very likely that a lot of decks will play more switching cards, and Guzma is already part of most decks. So usually this attack basically means you deal 50 damage, base damage, then you deal 10 damage from poison and 20 damage from burn. So you deal 80 damage for 3 energies. Of course, potentially more, but usually your opponent will have a switching option. So this attack, unless you can make it work on its own, it's not very good. Yeah, second attack, 2 Grass, 2 Colorless, Solar Beam, 150 damage. Yeah, it's just a classic big damage, big cost attack on a GX card. As always been like this, nothing spectacular. And then the GX attack, for the same cost as the second attack, heal all damage from this Pokemon. If this Pokemon has at least 1 extra grass energy attached to it, shuffle all cards from your discard pile into the deck. So this is an interesting card because unlike Gardevoir, for example, Gardevoir GX, which only shuffle 10 cards back in your deck, you actually, in the late game, get to shuffle your entire deck back. So there might be options to maybe play a healing variant with the card, where you somehow accelerate energies early on and then just keep healing your Venusaur while not attacking for a lot of damage, but still attacking for significant damage, because you can just whatever, Max Potion, Acerola, whatever, and then when you're close to running out of them, you just shuffle them back. But it might just be too costly to actually be usable. Then of course weakness, fire as usual, resistance none, and retreat 4, so nothing too spectacular there. And for those who don't know, it might very well be the case, because that's the first set with Tag Team GX. When you KO Tag Team GX, you take 3 prizes. So it's not like a normal GX where you take 2 prizes, you actually take 3. So yeah, once you lose a Tag Team GX, it's pretty hurtful. So you usually want to have, if you want to use them, you usually want them to be super significant and potentially game-winning cards. Next up we have a Weedle, which takes one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switches with the active Pokemon. This attack has been part of the game forever, and there were circumstances where it was useful, but mainly because they had additional effects like pull it up and it's poison, pull it up and it's sleeping, just stuff like that. So on its own, definitely not a worthy tech card. And the second Weedle just 20 and 10 damage to itself. Then Kakuna, ability Grass Cover. If this Pokemon has any grass energy attached to it, reduce all damage done to this Pokemon by 30. Once again, I'm pretty sure there were at least 3 other Kakunas that had similar or maybe even the same ability, like damage reduction in general. So also nothing spectacular, so it comes down to Beedrill. If Beedrill is good, then the other cards will of course see play. Comrade Needle, if you can only use this attack if this Pokemon has any damage, both active Pokemon are knocked out, and Reckless Charge for 90, this Pokemon does 10 damage to itself. So the first attack is actually pretty interesting if you think about it, because it thankfully doesn't specify how much damage. So one damage is already enough, which means you can attach rainbow energy and then just KO both. So this definitely has potential in a heavy GX meta game to, yeah, easily win games. But if you play against any non-GX deck, unless you find a suitable partner for Beedrill, you just won't be able to even abuse it, because let's say you play against Granbull. Granbull KOs you, you KO yourself and Granbull, so you're already behind in price and you don't have any option to win because your second attack is just won't deal a lot. So you definitely need a second grass Pokemon, and but the card definitely has potential, but definitely not like high potential where I would say, okay, try this card out, build a deck, make it work. It's just, it might become okay, but I can't see it doing more than that right now. So next up we have Paras, just the regular basics, like scratch for 10 and slash for 20, 1 or 2 energies. So once again we have to take a look at the evolution, which is Parasect, ability Panic Spore, put 2 damage counters on your opponent's confused Pokemon between turns. And Mysterious Powder, 30, flip a coin, fets your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. Okay, that's just bad. I mean, first of all, you have to flip for the second attack and it doesn't deal significant damage, which means you have to find a different attacker that confuses, so you can make use of it. But even if, like, let's say, I mean, as I said with Venusaur, most decks play switching cards, so or can just retreat with Confusion. So Confusion doesn't usually take the 3 damage, and Panic Spore does 20 on a confused Pokemon. So you basically have an attacker that confuses, and a Pokemon, a stage 1 Pokemon on your bench that makes confused do 20 between each turns. But there's a different special condition that also does puts 2 damage counters on a Pokemon regions, which is Burn. So you might as well just play any Pokemon that applies Burn. So I don't see this card being any good. Then Execute, Bullet Seed, 4 coins, 10 times the number of heads, but there's no Executor. Interesting. Or at least not now. Maybe there's... there might be Dragon 1 in there. Pinsir, Grip and Squeeze for a double colorless energy. The defending Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. Classic Pinsir attack, or just classic attack in general. Some damage and the opponent can't retreat. And then Guillotine Hug, flip 2 coins. If both are heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out. That's a very classic Pinsir attack where you flip multiple coins, and if all of them are heads or whatever, then Pokemon is just KO'd. So also just super useless. So this might be an interesting card. The first Prism Star, Shaman, Flower Storm, 30. This attack does 30 damage times the amount of energy attached to your Pokemon in play. That's definitely a very good card for Rayquaza, because you play Grass Energy anyways, and you want to have a lot of energies on board, and actually does the same amount of damage like Rayquaza, 30 for each energy. This is definitely going to be an inclusion in Rayquaza deck, so that's definitely a good card. Next up, Charmander, just classic basic, scratch for 10 and retaliate 20 times the number of damage counters on this Pokemon. So nothing spectacular. Charmander, Ember, 30, discard an energy from this Pokemon. These are just copy-paste attacks from every set with every Pokemon. You will just see them all the time. Then Charmeleon, 2 fire energy, Fire Fang, 30, your opponent's active Pokemon are burned. Also nothing spectacular. So, Charizard. Ability, Fierce Fighting Spirit. Once during your turn, you may put 2 damage counts on this Pokemon, then search your deck for 2 fire energy cards and attach them to this Pokemon. Then shuffle your deck. Okay, interesting ability. Let's check the attack. Discard all fire energy cards from this Pokemon. This attack does 50 more damage times the amount of cards discarded this way. So let's say you attach a fire energy for your turn, then you attach 2 with the ability, and then you deal a lot of damage. 180. Might be an okay fire deck, especially if you take into consideration that there are cards like Victini Prism Star, which does damage based on how many fire energy cards you have in your deck, and then you shuffle them back. So you just use multiple Charizards, and you can use Victini and maybe more Charizards after. And it's a non-GX, which is very good, but it's a stage 2, so might be too clunky. But definitely also a card that might have some potential. It's definitely not like most Charizards where you're like, okay, this is just a Charizard, it's bad. So definitely potential. Vulpix. Yeah, for 1 energy, Tail Whip, flip a coin. If heads, defending Pokemon can't attack during your opponent's next turn. Also, once again, classic attack. Then Ninetales. Once during your turn, you may discard 2 fire energy cards from your hand. Then choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switch it with the active Pokemon. That's like, I would say it's an interesting card in decks like Blacephalon, but I don't see the deck having space to use this Ninetales, especially. I mean, there might be some decks, for example, like the Charizard I said before, where you could make use of a heavy fire energy deck, and then use Alolan Vulpix to like search Pokemon, but the problem is that you can't evolve this Ninetale from Alolan Vulpix, so you will have to use one of those bad fire Vulpix. So yeah, Ninetales is, it's like a card. If, for example, Blacephalon had 68 whatever cards in his deck, then you could consider playing Ninetales, especially if you play something like Mug and Ditto already, to discard fire energies, but there's just no way with the 60 cards limit that you want to play Ninetales instead of other cards. I mean, you could even, like most Blacephalon decks don't even play 4 Guzma, so you'd rather even put in Guzma, like a 4th Guzma, or just a heavier Naganadla line, whatever you cut to make to like fit everything you already want in your deck. And even after these cards, if you fit 4 Naganadel, 4 Guzma, whatever, then you could still just add in more consistency. So there's just no way that people will play Ninetales in Blacephalon. It's just not that insane to justify it taking up the space, especially your bench space, which you want to use for Naganadel and Blacephalons. And the attack is just for 1 fire to colorless Flametail 90, so no way. Ponida, Life Coal, 10 damage, Stomp, 10 damage, and if hits 30 more damage, so nothing spectacular here. Rapidash, 1 fire energy, Searing Flame, 20, your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned, and Agility, 60, flip a coin, effects, prevent all effects and damage on this Pokemon from opponent's Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. I mean, there have probably been dozens of Rapidash that had like Agility, just quick Pokemon in the game. They usually end up with Agility in the TCG and never has been super good. I mean, Agility is like a potentially good attack in a metagame where Guzma doesn't exist, or Lycanroc or whatever, but they exist, so Agility won't do anything, especially because the damage is not significant enough. Moltres, Wildfire, discard all fire energy from this Pokemon, discard a card from your opponent's deck for each energy discarded this way. Maybe Moltres Mill? No, probably not. And then for 3 fire and 1 colorless, Fire Spin 180, discard 3 energies from this Pokemon. Yeah, that's just not good. Litten, Fasten Claw, 10 plus, flip a coin, if heads this does 10 more damage, yeah. Torrocat, Raw, your opponent switches the active Pokemon of one of your bench Pokemon, and Claw Slash for 3 colorless, 60. Yeah, also all bad, but for this, I mean, I already talked about the Execute, that I don't know if there's an Executor, maybe Dragon, but I know for sure that there's going to be a Incineroar GX in like Darkness typing, so yeah, we will take a look at this later. Squirtle. Ability, Shellraft. If you have a stadium play, this Pokemon has no retreat cost, and Water Gun 30. Next Squirtle, Tackle 10 damage, and Rain Splash 20 damage. Yeah, okay. Wartortle, Tackle 30 damage, and Waterfall 70 damage. I mean, they didn't even take the time to give them any additional effects. They're just like, yeah, you deal some damage, and yeah, who cares? Then Blastoise. Ability, Power Squall. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 6 cards of your deck, choose as many water energy cards as you find, then attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Shuffle the rain cards into your deck. Um, no, there's just no way this is good, especially because there already exist accelerating water decks currently, which is, for example, the Quagsire Neganadel deck, where you have Aqua Patch and Neganadel to accelerate your energies, and they are both, like, not both, but Quagsire and Neganadel both are stage 1s, and Blastoise is stage 2, which is already a downside, and then you randomly look at the top cards and have to hit water energies, which means you need to play an insane amount of water energies to even make the ability useful, because hitting one energy just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, this is just not, no, this is not good. And then Hydro Tackle for 3 water, this 150, and this attack, this Pokemon does 30 damage to itself. Yeah, okay, this card is bad. Psyduck, Headache, 10, flip a coin. If it's your opponent can't play any trainer cards from the hand during your next turn. Yeah, whatever. And Golduck, stage 1, for 1 Water Energy Amnesia, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon active attack. The Pokemon can't use the chosen attack during your opponent's next turn. And Swim for 3. If your opponent has any water energy in play, you may not deal damage to your opponent's active Pokemon and do 90 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon instead. The second attack is definitely bad because you deal 90 for 3. And there's not a significant amount of good water Pokemon that the attack would be usable for the second part. And I mean, I can see where they are going with Golduck and Psyduck. I mean, the first one, if you flip heads, your opponent can't play any trainer cards, and the second one, you can choose an attack and then the opponent can't use it. But this is just a bad approach at being a mill deck or stall deck, so yeah, I don't see them seeing any play. I mean, maybe Golduck might see gimmicky play with Ditto and Rainbow Energy in the deck, so that you can, in matchups where it's useful, put down Golduck and then use Rainbow and force your opponent to switch and stuff. But as I said already, there's just so many switching cards in the next format and already there, so that just doesn't make sense to play on a condition that forces your opponent to not have any switch cards and otherwise is super useless. Yeah, then Staryu, Numbing Water. Flip a coin if that's your opponent's active is not paralyzed. Okay. Magikarp, Dragon Gate. Flip a coin if that's, choose a card from your discard pile which evolves from this Pokemon, evolve this Pokemon into it. So it's basically, yeah, I currently don't know the name, how they keep calling it, but for example, the Fan Thump from Breakpoint had the attack where you can like attack and then evolve, and this is just a worse version kinda, because you have to flip a coin and the Pokemon needs to be in your discard pile. But let's take a look at the Gyarados. Maybe it's worth to evolve into it. Top quality Sake Brew, okay. 30 plus, reveal the top 7 cards of your deck. This attack does 30 damage times the number of water energy cards revealed. Then shuffle the water energy cards back into your deck and discard the remaining cards. And then Hyper Beam, 100, discard 1 energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, okay, this deck just wants to force you to play an insane amount of water energy cards in your deck, so that you ideally deal 240 damage and maybe 270 with Choice Band. But that's never going to be more than just a gimmicky fun deck, but it's definitely looks like a fun card to try out on PTC Draw or whatever. Next up, Lapras, Confused Ray, opponent's Pokemon is now confused. Hydro Pump, that does 30 damage times the number of water energy card attack to this Pokemon. Yeah, okay, maybe it might see play in like the Quagsire deck, just as a basic attacker that you can like smack down, but just takes way too many energies to deal significant damage, so that's also probably not too good. Then Articuno, ability Blizzard Veil. While this card is your active Pokemon, whenever your opponent plays a supporter card from their hand, prevent all effects of this card done to your benched water Pokemon. That's interesting. And Cold Cyclone 70, move 2 water energy card from this Pokemon to a benched Pokemon. Okay, if the ability would always be active, and not only if it's active, then the card would definitely have a lot of potential, because that could just mean you find yourself a very bulky, heavy attacking water Pokemon that you can just power up. But since Articuno has to be active, I mean, of course, your opponent still can't, like Guzma, but that means you just have to put down multiple Articunos, and then Articuno gets KO'd, you put another one active, Articuno gets KO'd, you put another one active. Might be worth if there's like a water Pokemon where it makes sense. I mean, the only water tag team is Magikarp, and okay, you can attach 7 energies and then spread 100, but that doesn't do a lot if you don't do anything else. But on the other side, this Articuno also, I just saw the tag, Cold Cyclone for 2 water, move 2 water energy card from this Pokemon to your opponent's, to your opponent's bench Pokemon, of course, to one of your bench Pokemon. So maybe there's potential, especially with Quagsire, which means you can just attack, move your energies back, and then basically not lose any energies in the process, and always be able to power up new Articunos, so you can just deal 70, deal 70, deal 70, and you just attach more water energies every turn. So this might actually, I mean, that's definitely an interesting concept to try out with Magikarp, where you basically Guzma around your opponent's board, just damage everything, and then in your last turn you just move all the energies to Magikarp, because of course your opponent can't Guzma because you have the ability on board, like the Articuno ability, and then you just spread 100, KO everything, or KO enough prizes. So this might have potential, but definitely not as a top contending meta deck, especially because stuff like Pikachu Zekrom, which we will get to in just a second, can also spread, and a lot of decks already play Muk and will probably continue playing Muk, so you can't even use your ability. But it's definitely an interesting concept to try out. Yeah, and yet now we're at the big boy. One of the most hyped cards and most exciting cards from the new set. Ever since it was revealed at last year's World Championship, people have been talking about it, which is Pikachu and Zekrom GX. First attack, full blitz for 3 lightning energies, 150. Search a deck for up to 3 lightning energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. Already pretty strong attack, especially with Choice Band. You deal 180, KO stuff like Tapu Lele or other GXs for 180. And that's pretty strong, especially because of cards like Electric Power that already boost the damage even more. And then you have Tech Bolt GX for 3 lightning energies. If this Pokemon has at least 3 extra lightning energy attached to it, in addition to this attack cost, of course, this attack does 170 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So, of course, the idea behind this card is you use Full Blitz and then attach 3 lightning energy cards to Pikachu Zekrom itself. Usually it doesn't get KO'd unless your opponent hits for weakness, and then you just Tech Bolt the next turn, KO the active, and KO benched Pokemon. And this is just, in these 2 turns you can potentially win the game, because you can potentially draw 6 prizes. And this is pretty strong, especially with other cards that we will see also when we talk about the lightning Pokemon in the set. So this is definitely one of the best cards in the set, if not maybe the best. And this is definitely also a card that will see play. So not really more I can say about this, man. Just a very good card. Next up, Alolan Geodude, self-destruct, 60 damage. This Pokemon does 60 damage to itself. Next, Alolan Geodude, which is actually made of Play-Doh, which is nice. Charge, search your deck for 2 lightning energy cards and attach them to this Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. Pretty bad, because it will usually just get KO'd. Alolan Graveler, for 0 energies, Rollout for 30, and for 4 energies, Electro Slug for 100. And Alolan Grimer, Magnet Bomber 20 times. Choose as many lightning energy cards from your bench Pokemon as you like and move them to this Pokemon. This deck does 20 damage times the number of cards moved this way. It is just bad. I mean, imagine you have like 8 energies on board, move all of them to the active Pokemon just to take a KO. Then your opponent just, I mean, unless you put, 8 is even enough. Like, you put 8 active, then your opponent just attaches the DC to Lele and it's KO and you lose all your energies. So this is pretty bad. Yeah, the second attack for 5 energies even. 190, discard 2 energies from this Pokemon. Yeah, it's just no. No. Voltorb, take it for 20, okay. Electrode, ability Eleki Shaker. When you play this card from your hand to one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may choose as many light energy cards from your Pokemon in play as you like and move them to your Pokemon anywhere you like. Yeah, okay, whatever. Also not very good. Yeah, and second attack for 2 energies, 50. Yeah, now we get to another interesting lightning Pokemon, which is Zapdos. Assault Thunder for 1 lightning energy. If this Pokemon was on your bench and became your active Pokemon this turn, it does 70 more damage. Yeah, might not seem like a lot because it's only 80, but keep in mind, it's first of all, it's a basic Pokemon. Then it also needs 1 energy, and you can boost the damage with electric power, so you can get to very nice numbers very quickly. And yeah, has also already proven itself in Japan. There was one set which was basically before, like it had some cards that we get in this set, but didn't have tag teams yet, so it was basically this set minus tag team. And Zapdos was one of the most played, if not the most played, or like most represented deck in the day 2 or top cut, however you want to call it, of the Japanese tournament. So now it will just get better because it gets stuff like the Pikachu Zekrom, which makes it easier to also be useful in the late game, because then your 80 damage Assault Thunder usually won't do a lot. So this is definitely one of the top contenders for the best deck. Yeah, then Mareep, Shock Bolt, 30 damage, discard all lightning energy from this Pokemon, which would mean 1, and then it just gets KO'd, so it's useless. Then Fluffy, Electric Punch, 30, and Shock Bolt, 60, discard all lightning energies from this Pokemon. It's still not good, but maybe Ampharos GX is good. Power Recharge, 30, put all your electric power cards from your discard pile into your hand. Impact Bolt for 2 lightning energies, discard all lightning energy cards from this Pokemon. Why do they all have the same attack? They literally all do more damage and discard all the lightning energies. And then Electrical GX, search your deck for 7 Pokemon, reveal them to your opponent and put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. Okay, the first attack is definitely very, very interesting, especially in a format where Judge isn't, or N doesn't exist, and Judge is not played in insane high numbers. You could just use all your electric powers, power recharge, take the KO, get them back, and then repeat. But there are 2 major problems. First problem is Ampharos is a stage 2, which always isn't as nice as having a stage 1 or basic that also deals significant damage. And second of all, it's also fighting weak, so if Pikachu gets very popular, so will fighting Pokemon. And if fighting Pokemon get popular, Pikachu might still be able to survive because of Zapdos, because Zapdos has fighting resistance and also is a non-GX, but Ampharos will just completely get obliterated. So yeah, and also another problem, if people actually decide to play more Judges, or I mean, that's the only really scary shuffle card, then you just won't be able to hit for high damage anymore. So the card definitely has potential, but it's like a lot of things need to go right in the metagame for it to be actually useful. So next up we have Blitzel. Delivery Dash, search your deck for 2 electric power, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck, and Zap Kick for 20, and then Substriker. If this Pokemon evolved from Blitzel this turn, this deck does 90 more damage. So this is basically budget Lucario GX. Well, I mean, I guess budget because it's not a GX. And it can use electric power, so it might actually be a nice non-GX deck to try out, especially because this is doesn't suffer too much from the whole fighting Pokemon aspect that I just mentioned with Ampharos, simply because it's also it's not a GX, it's just a regular stage 1. Might be a card worth to try out actually, especially because the pre-evo can just search electric power, can even use Zapdos in the same deck. Definitely has potential. Emolga, ability Cheeky Meeting. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a Pokemon with an attack called Nuzzle, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. And then Nuzzle, flip a coin, if heads your opponent's active Pokemon is not paralyzed. If I remember correctly, there's like the Raichu GX attaches energy. No. There's a Pachirisu that attaches energy based on the amount of Nuzzle Pokemon you have in a deck, and then you have the Pikachu GX, which does 20 damage for each lightning energy in play. But once again, you will need a lot of setup because you need your Emolga to search your Pokemon, and then you need to use Pachirisu to power up your field. And then you still run into the problem that Raichu also has fighting weakness, and if it's not by far the best lightning attacker, then there's no reason to play it over, let's say, Ampharos or Pikachu, Zekrom. So yeah, I don't really see Emolga becoming very popular. Then we have Joltik, Leech Life, 10, heal from this Pokemon the same amount of damage you did to the defending Pokemon. And Galvantula, ability Unnerve, if your opponent plays an item or supporter card from the hand, prevent all effect of that card onto this Pokemon. And Spider Threat, 40, put any one card from your discard into your hand. Once again, this is pretty similar to the Cardicuno idea. If you have a deck, I mean, of course, in this deck you also need to switch around your energies, where you want to get a lot of energies on board to be useful, then you can definitely play Galvantula, because your opponent will never be able to Guzma KO it to take away your energies or whatever you want to have on the Galvantula, tools, whatever. And Spider Thread also for 1 lightning energies, 40, and put a card from a discard into hand. Definitely has a potential because, let's compare to Groudon A Expanded. You want to set up 1 very big attacker, and Spider Thread also gives you cards, but this is once again a very gimmicky card. So if you don't have the attacker that you want to use it with, then the card is absolutely useless. But if you find a card that can make super good use of Galvantula, then it's gonna be good, but good. Yeah, okay. That word doesn't make any sense. It's gonna be very good because you can just make super good use of it. And it's just a very niche card, so not very powerful, but has potential for sure. Then we have Helioptile, Pound for 10, and Static Shock for 40. Yeah, okay. And Heliolisk, Random Spark, this attack does 30 damage to one of your one's Pokemon, and Volt Switch 90 switches Pokemon with one of the benched Lightning Pokemon. Yeah, this is also just not very good. Okay, now we get to another very interesting Lightning card, which is Tapu Koko Prism Star. Once you're on your turn, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may attach 1 Lightning Energy card from your discard pile to 2 of your bench Pokemon. Then put this Pokemon into the Lost Zone. Yeah, it's simple as that. It's just Lightning Energy acceleration, but after you accelerate energies, it's gone. So it's, for example, good to power up Pikachu, Zekrom GX, or maybe even, I mean, once again, might again be useful for Raichu GX, because you can get lightning energies from a discard pile and then it's gone, and then you have lightning energies. But it's just most likely that we'll see playing any kind of Zapdos or Pikachu Zekrom variant. And it's just a very good card. Then we have a regular Zeraora, after we already had Zeraora GX in the set before. Slash for 20 and Wild Bolt. This attack, this Pokemon does 20 damage to itself. Yeah, it's just it's the thing is, it could be a potentially good card because it's a non-GX, deals 120 in a metagame where Lightning decks will be good, so you could use it in there. But there's just no reason to not use Zapdos over it. I mean, of course, Zapdos does 40 less damage, but it also needs 2 less energies, so yeah, Zero probably won't see any play. Unless, I mean, it might be one of those cards that you might see in a deck with like counter gain, counter energy, and then it's just going to be another basic that you can counter energy, counter gain, and then smack for weakness. That might see play, but it's very unlikely that it will see play in the tier 1 lightning attacker decks. So next tech team GX, which is Gengar and Mimikyu. The attack does 50 times the amount of trainer cards you find in your opponent's hand. So this includes supporter cards, stadium cards, and item cards, not just item cards. And Horror House GX, your opponent can't play any cards from their hand during their next turn. If this Pokemon has 1 extra Psychic Energy attached to it, each player draws cards until they have 7 hand cards. The problem with this card is that for example, on a non-tech team GX, like on a regular GX, this card would be very good, because Poltergeist, I mean, most decks play an insane amount of supporter and item cards, so you can just always take the one hit. And Horror House, you can force your opponent to draw into a lot of cards after they played down their items, and on top of that, they can't play any more cards. But the problem is that Horror House doesn't draw any cards, so he will just end up with a KO in the next turn, but you didn't take a KO with your GX. So, and of course it's weak to Zoroark, which already is like one of the worst signs. But in general, this is just on a regular GX. I mean, it might see play with Marshadow, because Marshadow then makes it a regular GX. So that's potentially good, but Marshadow again is also just a regular GX with 150 HP, so it just gets KO'd very quickly. But definitely keep that in mind. The card is not horrible, but maybe needs the right partner or the right combination of cards to actually be, super strong. But Poltergeist, for sure, it's a very strong attack, and the GX is also interesting. Then we have Nidoran female, call for family, such a deck for basic Pokemon, put in a bench, scratch for 20. Then Nidorina, family rescue, shuffle 5 psychic Pokemon from a discard pile into your deck. Interesting. Definitely interesting. And then Nidoqueen, ability Mother's Call. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a Pokemon card, excluding GX and EX, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Power Lyrat, 10 plus, this deck does 50 more damage times the number of evolution Pokemon on your bench. Yeah, there was a similar attack on the Nidoqueen back from Rising Rivals, like, by now it's almost 10 years ago, that did something close to it, but had a different ability and was a different metagame, so, completely different card, but the attack is just very similar. For 3 energies, you can, let's say you have, it's only evolution cards on your bench, so okay, itself doesn't count. So let's say you have 4 on your bench, which is already a lot. Then you deal 210 damage, which is good, but that only works if you have, I mean, I guess in theory you could make this work with Malamar, because Malamar is an evolution Pokemon. It also helps power it up. But then again, there's the problem of Nidoqueen being a stage 2. So you need like 2 or 3 Malamars, and then you need like Nidorinas on your bench, and need to draw into your Nidoqueens or have a different card that gets your Nidoqueens. And of course, I'm not just of course you have Nidoqueen itself, but I'm also thinking about the turn where, for example, your Nidoqueen got KO'd, and you had to use your ability to set up Malamars and stuff. But okay, you can use Treasure because it's psychic. It definitely has potential, actually. Now that I think about it, it might have potential. Yeah, that's definitely something that I personally want to try out when the new set hits PTCGO. And that's actually interesting. I'm pretty sure it's an overlooked card. I could be wrong. Maybe people are already talking about it everywhere, but definitely seems like an overlooked card. And then we have Nidoran, Peck for 10, and Horn Attack for 20. Nidorino, Peck for 20, Horn for 60. And then we have Nidoking. Drag off, choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, switch it with the active Pokemon. Then this attack does 50 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. And Kingdrum 100 plus. If you have Nidoking on your bench, this attack does 100 more damage. I think I would still prefer to only play a Nidoqueen heavy deck. I mean, you could say you want to play Nidoking as well in it because you play Nidoqueen. But as I said, if you have Malamars on your bench, you already deal more than 200 anyway, so there's no reason to just clunk up your bench with basically worse Nidoqueens that don't have an ability that helps you set up. Yeah, okay, Nidoking is bad, I would say. Tentacool, Wrap 10, flip a coin, affects your opponent's active Pokemon is not paralyzed. And Tentacruel, Void Tentacles, your opponent's active Pokemon is not poisoned and confused. And Paranormal, for 70, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done, prevent all damage of attacks done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Ultra Beast. It's basically a worse Sceptile, I guess, because if you want to play a deck that auto-wins, or basically auto-wins Ultra Beast, like Blacephalon, why would you not just play the Sceptile line in a deck? So, yeah, definitely doesn't seem too good. Grimer, Pound for 10. Muck, ability Poison Sac. Don't remove special condition poison from your opponent's Pokemon when they evolve or devolve. And Toxic Secretion, 40, your opponent's active Pokemon is not poison, put 2 damage counters instead of 1 for this condition. Yeah, it's just bad. Alolan Marowak, Limbo, search your deck for 2 basic energy cards and ship them to your Pokemon any way you like, then shuffle your deck. Alolan Club, 20 times, this deck does 20 times for each Pokemon in play that has Alolan in its name. For your Pokemon as well. So let's say you have 5 Alolan Pokemon on your bench, Alolan Marowak active, then you do 120 for DC. Yeah, this card is also super bad. So now we have a Starmie after we had Staryu earlier. Strange Wave, 40, search your deck for 3 water or psychic energy cards and attach them to one of your bench Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. No. Mr. Mime, ability Withdrawal block, your opponent can't return any Pokemon with damage counters on them or any cards attached to these Pokemon to their hand. And Confusion, 20, flip a coin, affects your opponent's active Pokemon not paralyzed. This deck is definitely a very good tech in any kind of spread deck that's scared of Acerola. Yeah, so it's gonna, or just decks in general that are scared of Acerola. So that's definitely, yeah, a nice tech card. Then we have Mr. Mime GX, which I'm pretty sure does the exact opposite of the other Mr. Mime GX that we have, because I think the other one says that the damage is negated if it's 20, 40, 60, 80, and so on. So yeah, but the thing is, with cards like Choice Band in in the format, every deck that plays Choice Band can both attack for even or uneven numbers, because if it's an even number and you attach a Choice Band, it becomes an uneven number. If it's an uneven number and you attach a Choice Band, it becomes an even number. So unless you could play both Mr. Mimes at the same time as your active Pokemon, your opponent will just be able to KO it. Yeah, the attack is just not good enough to justify it being played for the potential, because Breakdown put a damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon for each of your opponent's hand cards, and Life Trick heal all damage from this Pokemon. Yeah, just doesn't work. Yeah, Jinx, Dazzle Dance, your opponent's active Pokemon is not confused. Mysterious Dance, put damage counters equal to the number of your opponent's bench Pokemon on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. I mean, this is at most, it's going to be 5, so for 2 energies you put 5 damage counters. That's just not good, because you can also just for 2 energies use Tapu Koko and spread 20 to everyone. Then we have Cosmog, ability Cosmoguard, while this Pokemon is on your bench, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks. Problem that it still isn't safe from Guzma. Cosmo Nap, heal 20 damage from this Pokemon, also not insane. Then Mankey, Scout, your opponent reveals the hand. Wow. Low kick for 30, and then Primal also does low kick for 30, but for 1 less energy, and Wreck 80 plus. If there's a stadium in play, this deck does 80 more damage, then discard the stadium. Could be okay, but needs 3 energies, so maybe not, but maybe it will see popularity because of all the good lightning types, so maybe. Then we have Hitmonlee. Special combo, you can only use this deck if your Hitmonchan used Hit and Run during your last turn. This deck does 90 damage to one if you put bench Pokemon. A Mega Kick 90. Okay, unless Hit and Run is insanely OP, then this card is just horrible. Hitmonchan, Hit and Run. Wait, no, Hit and Away. You may switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon and Magnum Punch for 70. Okay, both cards are bad. Then we have Omanite. Tickle, 30, flip a coin if heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. Bad, but Omastar. Ability Fossil Restrain. If you have less Pokemon in play than your opponent can't play any item cards from that. I mean, you can already see that this card is going to be super powerful, simply because Maxi got banned in Expanded just because of it, because both cards would be in the same format, and then you could just put down Omastar turn 1, completely lock your opponent out of item cards, and even in standard, of course it's stage 2, but it might very well work. So it's definitely a card to keep in mind, because item lock has always been strong. There's not been a single case where item lock was bad. Then Kabuto, Shell Clash 40. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 20 less damage from attacks. And then Kabutops, stage 2, ability Fossil Memory, where this Pokemon is your active Pokemon. Your opponent can't play any supporter cards from that hand. And Rock Slide 80, this attack does 20 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So, of course you might think, okay, we have Omastar and we have Kabutops, supporter and item cards, but there's one problem. Or actually multiple problems. The first problem is Omastar always works, like it can be on the bench and doesn't need to be active. And my main concern with Kabutops is that, I mean, we had the same case, or like a similar case before. We had Stoutland. Stoutland was also a non-GX, stage 2, that if active, blocks your opponent's supporter cards. Yeah, that's the word what I'm looking for. But the problem was it didn't have good attacks. And Rock Slide for 3 energies 80 is also not super strong. Then the second part is you have 2 stage 2s, or like you have a stage 2. And if you want to play both, you even have 2 stage 2s. And if you want to play both, they both evolve from the same basic. They both evolve from the Mysterious Fossil, or how it's called. That also makes stuff a lot more difficult. So, I don't know. It might very well be worth to test, but I'm not really sold on it. Because from experience, we know that active Pokemon blocking supporter cards is not, like with a bad attack, is not the best thing, to say the least. So next up we have Lavitam. Chip away 30, this take damage isn't affected by any effects of your opponent's active Pokemon. And Pupitar, payback 30 plus if your opponent has exactly 1 remaining price set, this attack does 90 more damage. I mean, I guess you could finish, for example, a Zoroark if your opponent has only 1 price, but if they know you play Lavitar, then they will probably play around it or something. So definitely depends on how good Tyranitar is. Pancham, Arm Thrust 40, flip a coin, if tails this attack does nothing, if heads discard an energy card from this active Pokemon. Okay. And then Lycanroc GX, another one. Ability Twilight Eye, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to with one of your Pokemon, you may discard 1 energy from your opponent's Pokemon. That's definitely an interesting ability. Then we have Accelerock for 120 and Radial Edge 30 times. This attack does... Okay, it should be Radial Edge GX, right? Yeah, it's Radial Edge GX. This attack does 30 damage times the number of energy cards in your opponent's discard pile. So, yeah, you have synergy with your ability, and... I mean, in any kind of Zoroark, Buzzrock, whichever deck, this card definitely has a lot of potential, especially with all these fighting weak Pokemon, and then... it's type of energy cards, so DCE, for example, would only count as 1. But still, I mean, this definitely seems like a very reasonable tech in any kind of already Lycanroc deck. So yeah, definitely a good card. Alolan Grimer, another one. Chemical Breath 20 for DC. This attack does 50 damage times the amount of special energies on your opponent's active Pokemon. Yeah, that's just what I meant with the Venusaur. Of course, you could say, okay, I use my Venusaur, and then the next turn I can deal 200 damage with Grimer, and yeah, but if your opponent switches, then your whole strategy is just gone. So yeah, that's not too good. And then Alolan Muck. Ability Strange Taste. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may look at the top 6 cards of your opponent's deck. Discard as many item cards you find there as you like. Shuffle the remaining cards back into your opponent's deck. This is definitely a very interesting card. This is... I mean, we are not at the end of the set yet, but I think for now it's easily one of my top 3 favorite cards from the set, especially if you already play Grimer. You can just play Alolan Mark and then disrupt your opponent. For example, against the Zapdos deck, you just discard the Electric Power. And yeah, I really like this card because discarding items just takes away so many options and consistency from most decks. So yeah, this card is I'm pretty sure this card is gonna see play because this ability is just way too good to not see play. And then attack, for 3 energy, Gunk Shot 80 your opponent's extra points. Yeah, that's not worth to mention, but the ability is super good, I think. Tyranitar, Spinning Tail, does take does 30 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon. Okay, so you basically deal 10 more damage than Tapu Koko, but you need a stage 2 and you need more energies. Okay, this is horrible. And then Bite Off 130 for opponent's extra Pokemon GX, this take does 100 more damage. Okay, I guess you deal 230 damage on the GX EX, but that's a stage 2 for 4 energies. Okay. Guess that solves the Pupitar problem because this Tyrant is just horrible. Poochyena, Darkness Howling, search your deck for 2 Darkness Pokemon, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. And definitely an interesting card in Darkness decks, but the only Darkness deck that comes to my mind is Zoroark, and why would you not just play Vulpix, which also takes for free. Maybe Mygiena's good, so Mydiana, Bite, 30, Dark Fang, 50, discard a random card from your opponent's hand. I mean, that sounds like a funny deck in Expanded, where you use Red Card, Delinquent, and then use Dark Fang, but we don't have these cards in Standard, so this kind of random card doesn't seem too good. Absol, your opponent's extra basic Pokemon have 1 more retreat cost, and Shadow Seeker, 30, this attack does 30 damage times the your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. Okay, this is just the classic, you increase your opponent's retreat cost and then your Pokemon does more damage, but first of all, a lot of Pokemon nowadays aren't even basics, like from the attacker, and then most decks that play basics just, I mean, okay, let's say you play against Zapdos. You force Zapdos to have 2 retreat, which means you deal 90 damage, which is not even a KO, so yeah, this episode is just bad. Spiritomb, Soul Compressor, search your deck for 4 Pokemon and discard them, then shuffle your deck, and Spooky Shot 20. I remember seeing this card when it was first revealed, and I thought, it seems like a very interesting card to like replace Spell Compressor in decks that maybe want to use it. For example, like Marshadow Toolbox, but when thinking about it, I didn't like. You would have to basically set up, like your discard pile with cards, and like your field and your discard pile with cards that make it impossible for you to lose the game. But since that is not possible, then it doesn't make sense to Soul Compressor your Pokemon and then use Marshadow, because if Marshadow gets KO'd and you still lose because of it, then yeah, doesn't help you. Okay, new Zoroark, Hide in Shadows, which is Pokemon for one of your bench Pokemon, and new Zoroark, Taunt. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with your active Pokemon, and Night Punish. Does it take this 20 damage times the number of Pokemon in your discard pile? You can't do more than 200 damage this way. That actually seems like a very interesting tech in Zoroark decks. For example, let's say you play a Zoroark deck that abuses counter energy and counter gain, maybe. That would mean you can set up this Zoroark in 1 turn, and you can also just discard all of your Pokemon earlier with trade with your other Zoroarks. And I mean, you can't deal more than 200 damage this way. I mean, it's way better than Bennett, for example, which says like you can't add more than 70 damage, which in the end adds up to 100, but you can actually deal 200 damage, and then with Choice Band 230. This card actually seems interesting. Definitely seems worth a try in some Zoroark versions. A Vullaby. Collect, draw a card, and Corkscrew, Punch 10. Okay. Trash dropping, discard an item card from your hand. If you do this, deck does 60 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. No. Brave Bird 120, this Pokemon does 30 damage to itself. Yeah, it's just bad. Pangoro, Constrict 60, your opponent discards 2 cards from their hand, and Tantrum, this Pokemon is now confused. Once again, could be okay in a format where you can actually limit your opponent's hand size, but the most you can do right now is using Judge, and then your opponent has 4 cards in hand, and he even chooses which cards he discards. So of course he has to discard half his hand, but then he gets to keep a supporter card he has there. So not good. Evil Tile, Derail 30, discard a special energy from your active Pokemon, and Clutch, the defending Pokemon, retreat during your opponent's next turn. Also, I mean, no. The attack is okay, the first one, but I don't think there's any deck that wants to make use of it, because most of them it's just better to attack for more damage and just take KOs than just discarding a special energy. So yeah, probably also not the best card. But interestingly enough, finally an Evil Tile with 0 retreat cost. Then Hooper GX, Roach Ring. Search your deck for 2 cards, reveal them, put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. Dark Strike 160, this Pokemon can't use Dark Strike during the next turn. And Devil Hand, choose your opponent's Pokemon GX EX 6 times. The deck does 30 damage times to the number of times you've chosen the Pokemon. To each Pokemon chosen. This deck damage is not affected by weakness or resistance. I mean, we know that there's gonna be acceleration for Darkness Pokemon, because as you can already see, the next card is the card that will accelerate the energies. So this card might actually have potential, but once again runs into the issue of being weak to fighting. So you would also probably need to add something to the deck that's not weak to fighting. But I guess you can play Evil Tile, which is also like a Darkness type Pokemon. Not necessarily the one that I just talked about, but for example, Evil Tile GX. Maybe. Might have potential. Yeah, then Incineroar GX. Scar Charge. Once you return, you may put 3 damage counters on this Pokemon. If you did, search your deck for 3 damage and you can attach them to this Pokemon. Then shuffle your deck. Then Crushing Punch 130. Discard 1 special energy card from your opponent's active Pokemon. And DD Tornado GX. This deck does 50 damage times the number of damage counters on this Pokemon. Yeah, there we already see the problem. It accelerates energies, but it doesn't move them. Like they have to be attached to itself. So if you want to move the energies, you need stuff like energy switch or whatever. So it's probably not the best to play a Pokemon that relies on having the energy cards on itself, but instead, for example, in the next set we will have a new Zoroark Greninja tag team, and this does damage based on how many darkness energy you have in play, not attached to the Pokemon itself. So then it might see play. So Incineroar definitely has potential as good darkness energy acceleration, but the Hooper, again, maybe you can make it work. Can make it work with energy switch, but it seems way too much effort to just be able to deal 160. Then we get to the metal part of the set. Calm Strike with Skarmory. If you already used the GX deck, this attack does 70 more. And Steering 90 during your opponent's next turn. Any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 30. Bad card. And now we get to one of the most hyped, probably even more hyped than the Pikachu Zekrom GX card, which is Jirachi with the ability Wishing Star. Once in your turn, if this is your active Pokemon, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose 1 trainer card you find there. This includes supporter cards and stadium cards. Reveal it and put it into your hand. Shuffle the remaining cards back into your deck, then this Pokemon is asleep. You might think, okay, but Jirachi is asleep, so I don't even get to use it. But this is where Escape Board finally comes in and finally becomes relevant, thanks to its second effect. Because the second effect actually says you can even retreat when you're affected by a special condition. So you use Jirachi with an Escape Board attached to it, you get a card, you retreat Jirachi. So this card is super strong and already saw a lot of play in Japan. So it's very, very safe to say that this is at least one of the top 3, if not the best card from the set. Yeah, next up we have Bronzor. Back to the average bad cards. Evolutionary advantage. If you go second, this Pokemon can evolve during your first turn. Okay, let's see if it's any useful. Bronzong, ability Heatproof, prevent all damage on this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's fire Pokemon, and Shady Stamp, 70, your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. Yeah. No. Even against Blacephalon, they can still just use Neganadel, and you still won't deal enough damage to threaten them to lose the game. Ferroseed, continuous tumble 20 times, will record until you get tails. This attack does 20 times the number of heads. Yeah, this attack also has already been around 100 billion times, usually on Geodudes, but never seen play because it's just bad. Then we have Ferrothorn, guard press 20 during your opponent's next turn. Any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 20. Classic attack, classic bad attack. Throne Pot Throw. What's that name? Throne Pot Throw. Okay. Choose one of opponent's bench Pokemon. This attack does 20 damage to that Pokemon times the number of mana you get attached to this Pokemon. You can't deal more than 1 damage this way. So let's say you have 3 energies attached and you deal 80 and 60 spread for 3 energies on a Pokemon that gets KO'd. No, it's just bad. Pawniard, Rigidify or Rigidify. During your opponent's next turn, any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 30 and Scratch for 2 energies for 20. Bishop, Sudden Appearance, 30. If this Pokemon has no damage counts and this attack does 90 more damage. So basically always, because it will just kick out after, but once again, why not just play something like Zapdos or even stuff like Golisopod or Lucario that have like similar conditions. And then Power Edge for 3 energies 90, so it's also bad. Then we have Cobalion GX, ability Metal Symbol. Each of your Pokemon that has any metal energy attached to it can't be affected by any special conditions. Would be relevant if special conditions all of a sudden become an issue, but they aren't, so the ability is useless because no one uses special conditions. Dual Saber 50, if there's a stadium card in play, this attack does 60 more damage. That's not the kind of attack you want to have on a GX Pokemon because it's just 110 damage with a condition. And then Iron Law GX, your opponent's Pokemon can't attack during your opponent's next turn. So the main problem I have with this attack is that it basically... similar to Gengar. You have a attack that locks your opponent down for the next turn, but you don't take a prize. So you only buy yourself a turn if you want to use the turn for attaching an energy to something or setting up a Pokemon, whatever. But if that's not the case, then this deck is insanely useless. So the only real reason where I can see this card seeing play is, I mean, either a mill deck, of course, but most mill decks aren't concerned about buying themselves a turn where their opponent can't attack because they play their Pokemon based on already forcing your opponent to not be able to attack. Or in a very big setup deck where you're like, okay, I use turn 1 Elm, and turn 2 I want to set up everything, and I want to, for example, you set up 3 different basics, like you bench, let's just compare to the Gardevoir deck that Robin and I played in Sao Paulo. You bench a Vulpix, you bench a Mudkip, and you bench a Ralts, and you want to keep all of them. So okay, then you attack with Cobalion, your opponent can't take the KO. Next turn you can use your Ninetales and set up your board. Okay, fine. But to be able to do that, you need, you first of all need the Cobalion. Need to attach an energy to it, which of course doesn't seem like the biggest issue, but that also means Cobalion needs to be active already. And usually in the same case where you Elm for Mudkip, Vulpix, and Ralts, you could also just play a slower game where you Elm for 2 of those basics and just use Vulpix. Just use Beacon, let Vulpix get KO'd, but whatever, you have the cards you want in your hand, you can set up your board even further. And Cobalion either gets KO'd, so you lose 2 prize cards, or it doesn't, but then you lose a bench spot, and if you already had to use Lele for Elm, like 2 bench spots that are completely blocked for the rest of the game. So Cobalion Cobalion might see play in the future, but right now I don't see any deck that can really make use of it. Next up, Onage, flip a coin, if it's discard an energy card from opponent's active Pokemon. And Dual Blade, Tool Drop, 30. This attack does 30 times the number of tool cards attached to your Pokemon in play. Tool Drop was already a thing some years ago with Trubbish, so this might see play, but two major advantages that Trubbish had was, first of all, Trubbish is a basic Pokemon. Second of all, it could attack for 1 energy because of Dimension Valley. And third of all, or like one of the biggest reasons probably, is the Sigilift that allowed it to carry multiple tools. I'm pretty sure it was 4. So with 2 Sigilift, with 4 tools on it, you already were able to deal a lot of damage. Now the only card that comes close is Genesect GX. So let's say you have like 2 Genesect and 4 other Pokemon, which means you have 8 tools. Yeah, 8 tools. So that's 240. So if you have all your tools on board, you deal 240, but if something gets KO'd, then you lose your tool and you don't have energy acceleration. So based on that, the deck doesn't seem too good, but maybe, especially thanks to Jirachi, which always has to carry an escape board, which is another tool, you could maybe make the deck work, because Jirachi gives it a lot of consistency, and maybe you can make the deck work based on that. And yeah, let's take a look at Aegislash, which has the ability to Royal Guard. Any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 40. And Shield Bash 100, this attacks damage isn't affected on your opponent's active. This attacks damage isn't affected by any effects of your opponent's active Pokemon. Okay, the tech doesn't matter, but what matters to me is the ability. You might think, what does the ability do for us? The thing is, Shining Celebi is still in the format, and Shining Celebi allows you to use attacks of your Prevolutions when you evolve a Pokemon. So that means if you have Aegislash and Celebi on board, you can actually still use Dual Blade's attack. So in theory, you could attack with a 140 HP stage 2 that has an ability that reduces damage done by 40, so it's basically a 180 HP stage 2. And you can also attach a Frying Pan, which makes it a 210 HP stage 2 with no weakness. So I would say that's definitely worth a try, because in theory, that if you can set up the strategy, it sounds insanely strong. So personally, that's also another strategy I want to try with the deck. I mean, it's already like the 5th or 6th strategy I want to try, because I think there's actually a lot of interesting cards in the set. So yeah, this is definitely something I'm very excited for, because Shining Celebi didn't have time to shine before, but I think the ability is very useful. So maybe it works, maybe. Yeah, then Klefki, Secret Key, each of your metal Pokemon's resistance is now minus 40, which basically means you can make your your metal Pokemon resistant to Psychic by 40, but I mean, I don't think that will see play. Then we have Alola Ninetales, Luminous Barrier. Basically, it's the same as the Water Ninetales. Prevent all the effects of damage, including prevent all the effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon GX EX, and Aurora Beam 80 for 3. Might see play in any deck that already plays Alola Ninetales GX, because you have Vulpix in there, and Alola Ninetales can just buy you turns against certain decks. But on the other hand, it might just be too clunky, so that's also something you have to try out. Mimikyu, Filch, draw 2 cards, Copycat. If your opponent used an attack that isn't a GX attack, then there's no use at this attack. Yeah, so these cards are basically all reprints from Pokemon back from Guardians Rising. I'm pretty sure that the Mimikyu was also part of Guardians Rising. So yeah, you basically get a Fairy Mimikyu now and a Fairy Ninetales. The problem with the Fairy Mimikyu is that Mimikyu was so strong because you can play it in Malamar, but there's not really any super strong Fairy acceleration, and in any deck that plays counter energy, you could already play the other Mimikyu before, so I guess that depends on which weakness you want to hit. But I don't see it having too much impact. Then we have Latios GX, Buster Purge, 240 for 4 energies. Discard 3 energies from this Pokemon. Might be able to be played with Malamar, but Ultra Necrozma just seems better because it needs less energies and also is an attack team. And Aerodino GX, attach 5 base energy cards from your discard pile to your Pokemon any way you like. If this one has at least 1 extra energy, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to it during your opponent's next turn. Yeah, that's interesting because you can actually, if you have 2 energies attached to it, you can attach more energies to it and then also make it damage immune. But the problem is, if you have 2 energies on it, then you only need 2 more for Bust. I mean, I guess, okay, you can use it, attach 2 to the active, 3 to another one on the bench, make it work this way, but I think it just seems way more reasonable to play any of these big GX attacks that even use psychic energies with Malamar, so Ultra Necrozma is probably still the better approach. Okay, now we don't even just have 1 Alolan Executor, we actually have 2 in the set. Yeah, Alolan Executor, Paradise Draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. You may discard as many cards as you like from your hand before you draw. And Egg Drop 60 times, discard as many Execute from your hand as you like. This attack does 60 damage for each card discarded. That seems like a funny deck in Expanded, but in Standard, then okay, you discard all your Executes and never get them back, and your Executor gets KO'd, and then you lose. Okay, so this card is pretty bad. Then we have Alolan Executor, which does Strawberry Shake. This attack does 20 damage for each type of basic energy card in your discard pile. You can't add more than 100 damage this way. This card might seem familiar to a lot of people, and this is simply because this is exactly the same Alolan Executor, but just as a dragon type. And since dragons aren't weak to dragon anymore, the only reason to play this Alolan Executor over the other one would be either Mysterious Treasure, so you can search for it, or that you don't want to hit for resistance into, or just don't, like, if you want to prevent fire weakness or grass resistance on an opponent's Pokemon, then it makes sense to play the other one. But I think it just makes sense to play the other one, especially because all of these Alolan Executor decks already play Grovyle and Sceptile, so you can search for grass Pokemon, and this Alolan Executor isn't a grass Pokemon, so why would you not just play the other one? I mean, maybe you play this as a one-off if it turns out to be better to have fairy weakness, but yeah. Then we have Dratini, Dragon Rage 60, flip 2 coins. If one of them is tails, the attack does nothing. And another Dratini, defense scale, prevent all effects from attacks of your opponent's Pokemon onto this Pokemon. Okay. And Dragonair, Twister, 30, flip 2 coins. Discard energy from your opponent's active Pokemon for each Chats. If both are tails, the deck does nothing. And then Dragonite, ability Fast Call. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Dragonclaw, 120. This card on itself probably doesn't seem too good because it's stage 2 that you need to set up just to search your deck for a supporter card. But what I'm thinking is that you can actually maybe make it useful with Lance Prism Star and the Dragonite GX, because Dragonite GX can deal a lot of damage even for not a lot of energies, and you can heal it with your supporter cards maybe. And with Lance, you can already set up multiple dragons, and you play Dratini and Dragonite anyways, but that once again just seems more like a gimmicky deck to try out and not actually like a competitive deck. So I think we will just move on here. Yeah, next up, Eevee and Snorlax GX. Cheer up, attach an energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. Dump Truck Press 120 if your opponent's active Pokemon is an evolved Pokemon. This attack does 120 more damage. And Megatron Friends 210 for 4 energies. If this Pokemon has at least 1 extra energy attached to it, you draw cards until you have 10 cards in your hand. This card definitely seems interesting. I could very well see it being played in any kind of Malamar deck that maybe already plays stuff like DCE. Because yeah, you can deal 240. And maybe you can find a DCE variant that's just better than Ultra Necrozma, so you don't have to rely on Ultra Necrozma for high amount of damage, but instead you can just play the Snorlax, so that might be a way for it to be useful. But yeah, that's something to try still. Yeah, next up Pidgey, collect, draw a card, Gust 20, quick attack 10, flip a coin, if that's does 10 more damage. Now Pidgeotto, ability Airmail. Once in your turn, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand and the other one at the bottom of your deck. This card would be okay if Zoroark wasn't a thing, so if you want to splash stage 1 draw cards in your deck, why not just play Zoroark? And then Pidgeot, Whirlwind 60, your opponent switches the active form of one of your bench Pokemon, and Spinstorm, your opponent puts the active Pokemon and all cards attached into the hand. Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess it's the second attack is interesting because it doesn't have the same kind of limitation like Tapu Fini GX, for example. So you can actually, if your opponent only has one Pokemon, you can actually put this back in their hand and then you just win. But that seems way too situational. Meowth, Scratch, and Bite, 10 and 20. Persian Punish. If your opponent has 4 or more cards in hand, if your opponent reveals their hand, choose a card you find there and discard them. Oh no, you actually choose cards you find there and discard them until your opponent has 4 cards in hand. That might actually be a very interesting tech, because you actually choose the cards your opponent has to discard. That's definitely a card to keep in mind. That seems like a sneaky tech in any deck that plays Ditto, for example. Then we have Farfetch'd. Basic Pokemon, collect the draw 2 cards and Tool Pistol 20. Before doing damage, you may discard a tool card attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. If you do, this deck does 20 more damage. Nope. Kangaskhan, Fast Evolution. Search your deck for 2 evolution cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Once again, it's just worse than Vulpix. And Mega Punch A for 3. Yeah, just bad. Taurus, Rage Hurt, 10 plus. This attack does 10 more damage times the number of damage counters on all of your Taurus and Taurus GX. If it was more than just 10, could have potential, but with 10, it just needs way too much damage to actually be useful. Aerodactyl, Pokemon Stage 1, Supersonic. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. And Fossil Fang 90, if you have no Pokemon GX and EX on your bench, this does 90 more damage. And with the right amount of acceleration, this might be a good card, but also seems kind of clunky because you always need to draw into new DCEs unless you want to play heavy acceleration. But maybe potential, maybe. Wouldn't completely rule out this card just yet. But also being weak to lightning is not that good against Zapdos. Lugia, Power Charge 30 to deck for basic edge card to this Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. Blast Wind 110. Yeah, bad. Zangoose. So this is going to be the last Pokemon for this set, and then we get to in the trainer and items. Headhunt, look at the top 6 cards of your deck, choose as many Pokemon you find there as you like, reveal them, put them into your hand, shuffle the rest back into your deck. Once again, on first sight it seems like a nice setup Pokemon, but why look at the top 6 cards of your deck to choose a random Pokemon if you can just use Vulpix to draw exactly 2 Pokemon that you want to have? So first off, we have Builds Analysis. Trainer, look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Choose 2 trainer cards you find there, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Shuffle the remaining cards into your deck. In a heavy item card deck, this definitely seems like a potentially very strong card. Especially with Jirachi, you can just burn through your deck so quickly. Yeah, I like this card. I like Builds Analysis. Depends on the deck, of course, but seems like a decent card. Black Market Prism Star. If either player knocks out a Darkness Pokemon with any Darkness energy attached, that player takes 1 less prize card. While this card is in play, whenever... Yeah, okay, it's just a classic Prism Star rule. Yeah, sounds interesting, especially in decks like... in decks that use Weavile, because you can actually... attack with Weavile for free, basically. Your opponent takes out Weavile and just doesn't take a prize unless they have a replacement stadium. But then again, it's vulnerable to... If your opponent plays a replacing stadium, then the card becomes just completely useless. But that's also, I mean, it's definitely an interesting card to try out in like Zoroark Weavile, for example. Brock's Grid. Shuffle 6 in any combination of Pokemon and basic entry cards from your discard into your deck. Yeah, we know this card already. It's just a reprint from the Evolutions card. Muscle Pad. If this card is attached to a Pokemon with 4 retreat cost, it gets 50 HP. Maybe another way for stall decks to become even bulkier. Dana. You can only play this card if your opponent's active Pokemon is a stage 2 Pokemon. Search your deck for any 2 cards and put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, if it would say a stage 2 in play, then it could swing some matchups in your favor. But it doesn't happen too often that people actually attack with their stage 2s. Usually it's just like Decidueyes that like chill on board and just spread damage, or Swamparts that just are there for draw support. They're very rare occasions of stage 2 attackers, at least for now. So for now this card is pretty bad, but might see potential. Dangerous Drill. Discard a Darkness Pokemon from your hand. If you did, discard either a Special Energy or tool attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon or the stadium in play. I think decks that would care about all of these cards would play Field Blower and Enhanced Hammer already. So you would need a Darkness deck that wants to get rid of all these 3 things, and then you need to play the card and also discard Darkness Pokemon. I don't like this card too much. Electric Charger. Flip 2 coins for each head. Shuffle an Electric Power from this card into your deck. That's definitely interesting because that, of course, on average, this gives you 1 Electric Power back. So let's say you play 4 Electric Power and 4 Electric Charger. You basically have 8 Electric Power in your deck, which is very good. Maybe not very good, but if your deck relies on Electric Power, then that's definitely a very good card that you want to play. Of course, still depends on how much space you have in your deck. Erika's Hospitality. If you have 6 or more hand cards, you can't play this card. Draw a card for each of your opponent's Pokemon play. Yeah, I mean, this is basically Steven's Advice with 1 less card, because Steven's Advice would be like 7 cards, including this one. And Stevens was incredibly strong, and ever since Stevens rotated and we didn't have the most insane draw spots, people were like, reprint Steven please, we want Steven back, and now we basically have Steven back. So this is also easily top 5 cards of the set and will 100% see play. One of the best draw supporters that we will have in the game. Evelyn. You can only play this card if your opponent's active Pokemon in stage 1. Draw 4 cards. I mean, that's basically like, look at this. We have Erika's Hospitality, and right below we have Evelyn, which says, you draw 4. You draw 4 if you fulfill the condition of your opponent being stage 1. So against any basic deck matchup, this is completely useless. And Erika's Hospitality is almost always good, and unless your hand is already too many cards, but I mean, it's not like I mean, I can't find the right words. I mean, the card is just straight up worse than Erika's Hospitality, so there's just no reason to play it. So Fairy Charm, UB. Prevent all damage done to the Fairy Pokemon this card is attached to, done by your opponent's Ultra Beast Pokemon. I mean, we already talked about the Tentacruel earlier, where I said, okay, Sceptile already solved the issue for most decks, except for example, Gardevoir decks, because they already rely on stage 2s and they are not very consistent. So if Ultra Beasts become very popular again, and if you want to beat them, then you can simply add this card. It's searchable with Ninetales, and it's just broken. I mean, imagine you play Alola Ninetales GX, the fairy one, are able to attack with it, with the GX attack, KO Blaze, and also attach the Fairy Charm. Then your opponent needs a new Blaze and Guzma and KO your Gardevoir on the bench or whatever. So if you're really scared of Ultra Beast, just play this card. But for now, I wouldn't say that Ultra Beast are the biggest threat with the next set. Grass Memory, yeah, once again, every 5 billion sets, Silvelli gets another memory. Maybe one day it will have all of its memories. So this time we have grass memory, and I think we also get like water memory or whatever. Then we have Ingo and Emmet. Look at the top card of your deck and return it. Then choose one of the following. Discard your hand and draw 5 cards. Discard your hand and draw the 5 bottom cards of your deck. I don't know. This card seems interesting. But on the other hand, they're just better draw supporters. So there might be a deck where this card becomes super powerful in. But for the vast majority of decks, I would just say stick to the classic Cynthia. And then Erika, for example. Yeah. That's just what I think. Just Jasmine. Search your deck for a metal Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. If you want second and it's your first turn, you may take 5 metal Pokemon instead. Problem I have with this card is, first of all, there are not a lot of strong metal Pokemon, and then one of the most popular metal decks is like Metagross, and what you want to get on your first turn are basics, and Elm gets you the same, and I don't know, and Elm is also like, for example, you don't hit the supporter stage in turn 1 and still need to get a turn 2, and Elm is still useful, Jasmine isn't, so I don't know. Might be useful. I'm not a metal deck player, I've not really checked all the metal Pokemon, but maybe there are some metal enthusiasts that just saw the card and are like going completely crazy about this card because they're so excited. I don't know. Judge Whistle, yeah, basically the same as... Oh no, I was gonna say it's the same as Looker Whistle, but it's actually different. It's either you draw a card or you put a Judge from your discard pile into your hand. That's actually very interesting. I thought it was like, oh, get 2 Judges from your deck, but first of all, that would have been definitely worse than this card, because Judge, of course, you get 2 Judges in your hand, yeah, but wow, you play one and then the other one is gone. Like when you played Looker, you can just chain them because you play Looker, you draw your top 3 cards, your hand doesn't change, you have another Looker. So Judge Whistle, maybe. But maybe not. We will have to see. Lavender Town, once during each player's turn, that player may look at their opponent's hand. It's just not worth the slot unless you have a deck that relies on checking your opponent's cards. Metal Goggles. Any damage onto the metal Pokemon discarded statue is reduced by 30% all effects of attacks and abilities which put damage counters on the metal Pokemon discarded statue. Yeah, it would just be another card to complain Tool Drop, which gives you like more options or something. Morgan. In order to play this card, you have to discard 1 Dana, 1 Evelyn, 1 Nita from your hand. Look at the top 12 cards of your deck and attach as many energy cards you find there to your Pokemon anyway. Like, shuffle the remaining cards back into your deck. I can already see the meme potential with this card because, yeah, I actually talked to someone about an idea that's definitely not going to be competitive, but at least a very fun idea. For example, you play Zoroark deck and burn through your deck every turn, search cards that you want with Makago, and then you play like 1 basic or tag team or whatever that needs a lot of energies to be powered up, and then in your you basically set up a game, and then you have all of these cards basically like a Zodia set up in your hand, and then you discard them, and then you power up your Pokemon, and then you just win the game. But it's not going to be more than a meme, but I can guarantee you I will try this out. Another thing I will try out of the set, and if it even works in the slightest, I will make a video on it. If it's completely horrible, then we just won't see it at all. Then we have Nanu. Switch a basic Darkness Pokemon from your discard pile of one of your Pokemon in play. Discard the Pokemon you switched with. I mean, that's basically switch. I mean, if you switch it, then the other one just goes to the discard pile. This seems like a very good card in Zoroark decks to like. Lele has always been a liability. You never wanted to have Lele on board. Last season you attacked with your Lele then and Acerod them back, and this season they're just stuck most of the time because most Zoroark versions are just way more aggressive, or your opponent is just so aggressive that they can just one-shot the Lele if you promote it. And Nanu just allows you to, if you have a Zorua in discard, you just switch the Zorua with a Lele, And the most important part is any attached cards, damage counter, special conditions, turns in play, and any other effects remain on the new Pokemon, which means you can immediately evolve into a Zoroark. So you have a Zoroark in hand, you use Nanu, get a Zoroark from a discard pile, evolve into Zoroark. So I guarantee you this is going to be a one-off in Zoroark decks because it's just way too valuable to be able to get rid of useless stuff. And I mean, you can even do stuff like, okay, I have a heavy damaged Zoroark in play, and you switch it with a Zorua. Of course, the Zorua gets KO'd because of damage counters, but your opponent only takes 1 prize card instead of 2. So this is definitely, this is 100% guaranteed one-off in Zoroark decks. Next up, Nita. You can only play this card if your opponent's active focus on basic Pokemon. Shuffle an energy card from your opponent's active into the deck. Yeah, once again, it's just one of the 3 cards that you basically only want to have in your deck if you really can make use of them, or if you want to discard them with Morgan. So other than that, they're pretty horrible. Pokemon Communication is just a reprint. Reveal a Pokemon from your hand, shuffle it into your deck, search your deck for Pokemon. Then Return Label, put a card from your opponent's discard pile on the bottom of your deck. Doesn't seem too useful unless you want to, I mean, like in decks that want to make use of the discard and you want to shuffle something back then, like into the deck, then it might be useful, but for now I don't really see it being that useful. Then we have Sabrina's Suggestion. Look at your opponent's hand, choose a supporter card friend and uses that's the effect of the supporter card. There's just no reason why you would play this. I mean, this literally only makes sense if you have 4 Erika in your deck, 4 Cynthia in your deck, 4 Guzma in your deck, and like maybe even other supporters, and then you're like, maybe sometimes I want to play a 5th Guzma, maybe sometimes I want to play a 5th Cynthia. Then you play Sabrina's Suggestion, and on top of that you will have to hope that your opponent has the card in hand. But for example, let's say you want to play it against decks that use Judge. Why not to like shuffle the hand back? Why not use your own Judge? Let's say you want to play it against mill decks. What do you want to do against mill decks? They have energy disruption cards in the hand. What do you want to disrupt at 0 energies? And if you use Steven's advice, then it doesn't really help you because they have to have Steven in the hand and then you use it. So, I mean, and Luzamine, of course, you get your supporters back, but no, Sabrina's just bad. Which is situational. Identified Fossil, yeah, it's just reprint of the fossil because there's so many fossils in the set. Viridian Forest, Trainer, Stadium. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard a card from their hand, then search a deck for a basic energy card, reveal it and put it into their hand, then shuffle their deck. Now this is just going to be a very good card in any deck that wants to get energies in discard or cards in discard, or just rely on certain energies. For example, the Ultra Necrozma deck will just play this card, you discard a Psychic Energy, you get a Metal Energy, and then you're good to go. So simple as that. Or just regular Malama deck, you discard a Psychic, get another Psychic, discard a Ultra Ball, whatever, get a lot of Psychics into a discard on 1. Then Water Memory, as I already said, there's going to be Water Memory in the set, and then Water Labyrinth Prison Star is going to be the last card we're taking a look at because, Ultra Rares and Shinies are not part of the list here, and they just have the same effect as any card that we previously saw anyway, so yeah. And Wonder Labyrinth Prison Star does all Pokemon's attacks except Fairy Pokemon cost 1 card or less more. While this card is in play, prevent all effects of items and supporter cards sent to this card, a classic Prison Star rule. Yeah, definitely an interesting card in any kind of fairy deck to disrupt your opponent while not being like hurt at all. I mean, there are not a lot of strong stadiums to be used for fairy decks. For example, most Gardevoir Swampert decks just use Brooklet because you have consistency, but in the late game you don't need to search more Mudkips or Vulpix. And then Wonder Labyrinth Prison Star actually seems very good, especially if you think about Gardevoir, because Wonder Labyrinth forces your opponent to attach more energies to take the KO, and then Gardevoir gets more damage in return because there are already more energies attached to the Pokemon. Yeah. So I think it was pretty obvious during the set review that I'm pretty excited for the set. There's a lot of interesting stuff to try out, cool stuff to try out, Mimi stuff to try out as well. So yeah, there will definitely be a decent amount of content once the set hits PTC Joe, because I'm actually super excited to try all of these decks. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the set review. Yeah. And I will see you guys in the next video, most likely a video featuring a new deck, because I don't think that I will make a video on an old deck in the last week before the set gets released. So yeah, stay tuned, and I will see you guys next time.